I just woke up from a nap, everybody. Welcome. We are into February now. Welcome to the 52nd episode of Monday Musings. I took a few week break from doing this show. Um, Chris and I got sick with COVID in the early part of January. And I just didn't really have, I did a handful. If you've been following the YouTube channel, I've done a handful of uh, other videos, streams and stuff. But even there was like a 2 week period where didn't really do anything on YouTube. And then started getting better towards the end of the month, and then just kind of was like, you know what, I'm just gonna take the next couple of weeks to do some stuff and not do this show. But now we're in February. It's time to get back to it. We didn't miss a single week in 2021. But I'll tell you what, being sick sucks. Hopefully, nothing like that happens ever again. That was no fun. I'll tell you that much. No fun at all. We're getting back into it now. It is Sunday. Pre-recorded this like I usually do. February 6th, 2022, 4:20 in the afternoon. That's an apt time to wake up, although I don't have anything to participate at the moment. Anyway, as we cruise into Monday, the 7th of February today, I hope you're going to have a good week. Hope you had a great weekend. Let's talk a little bit about the month of January. What an interesting month. What an interesting way to kick off 2022. Uh, we got a lot done on a lot of different things moving into the new year. If you've been paying attention to the Patreon page for The Weave in the Void, it has been a busy month. We finalized a lot of different things. Obviously, there was a couple of weeks in there where I didn't do the miniature painting streams or the incarnate streams because I was really sick. But got back into that. I banged out the last part of draft one for the Escape from Parthana module. I'm currently working on draft 2.0 for that. Launched the first map pack, the second map pack. We finalized the contracts and everything, all the paperwork with the Nathan Napalm 2 days ago over the weekend. I guess it'd be 3 days ago now. On I believe it was Friday, Thursday night or Friday, this past week. Just made an announcement post this past Sunday, yesterday, um, about that. It's over on Patreon now for the Sunday update instead of an adventure game update. We did a big update on that. So we've got Nathan Napalm coming on doing artwork, specifically character art for the source book, and he'll be doing some filler artwork as well for the campaign module, along with what Chris is doing. So, and we announced the publication dates for the tabletop modules. So May or June. Kind of depends on the move, which is something else. We alluded to this last year. We weren't sure exactly when we were going to do that, but we are moving. And if you remember correctly, Chris was out last October, kind of setting some stuff up, and we weren't sure when we were going to make that transition. It looks like we're making that transition sooner rather than later. So we are moving in the month of March, is what it looks like. So looking ahead to March, um, we'll probably have some downtime in March. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like because we're going to be moving in mid-March, and we're going to try to get as many services sort of pre-set up before we get there. But you never know how long it's going to take people, especially in the world of COVID. Like timelines and schedules do not mean what they used to mean. Excuse me. So, depending on how long it takes the internet to get installed and everything else, there will be a transition period in March when you might not see a lot of Chris and I here on YouTube as we're moving out there and getting everything installed and uh, everything moved, getting internet set up, all that good stuff. So that's gonna be taking place in the month of March. So depending on how long that all takes and how smooth that transition is, will determine whether or not the tabletop books come out in May or June. But at least we have timelines for those. Those are gonna be out the door soon. Um, that's all that on that front. usually in this show, I talk about what did we watch, all this other stuff. Again, being sick in January, there was a couple weeks where everything was just a blur. I know we watched a lot of movies and a lot of shows and didn't really pay attention to any of them because it just kind of went like that. Most recently, we finished up the second season of Lock and Key, which was actually pretty good. The the problem I had with it is that in a lot of ways it's like a teen soap opera. It literally is like a teen soap opera, but with supernatural elements added to it. And there's a lot of other shows out there that do that model. You've got the latest Sabrina, uh, as an example. We don't watch a lot of shows like that, but Lock and Key was actually first season was really good. It's got some darker elements to it, and second season was actually really good as well. But again, um, teen soap opera with some fantastic elements to it. And if you can appreciate the fantastic elements, it could get you past the teen soap opera stuff, which is kind of not that great. Still a really good show. I still cannot get my reading like I wanted it to. It's kind of, I don't, Chris and I don't usually do New Year's resolutions, but I said at the beginning of January, I was like, nah, gonna be doing more reading every single night. Um, not gonna, not gonna take the phone into the bedroom after, when I go to bed. No phone after 8. Yeah, that hasn't happened the whole month. Mostly because as soon as I said that, like a few days later, I got sick, and then it was like I'm not, I'm in the bed, with a fever, and just like I'm not gonna lay here and not have my phone. So that didn't happen. So I'm not getting as much reading done as I wanted to, but I am plugging along. About two-thirds of the way through the second book in the Chronicles of Amber. I'd like to have that wrapped up maybe next week sometime, depending on my schedule. Um, I'm gonna just be reading that for the foreseeable future. I don't want to try to read multiple things. I'm just gonna pound through the Chronicles of Amber, and then I'm not sure what I'm gonna read next. I think I would like to read more, um, maybe some Forgotten Realms. I might read the Icewind Dale trilogy or something because I would like to read something that has multiple characters in it, like the Dragonlance novels. To that always helps as I'm working on the Weave and the Void stuff, just from a writing perspective, reading something else that is done in a similar style. Because now we're up to 7 characters in the main party. That's all we're adding. There's no more characters. So we did chapter 11 um, in January. Supposed to do 2 chapters, but because I was sick, it didn't happen. Um, but we introduced the last 2 characters into the book. So now we're into part 2 of the first novel. And in part 2, we get introduced to the twins. And they have been met, and some stuff happened, and they're now going along with this adventuring party. And now that I'm up to 7 characters, we have a full party. So when I write a chapter now and you got 7 potential POV characters, you obviously don't need to switch into every POV. And you probably shouldn't. Um, but it is sort of looking at now as I look at the layout of each chapter, try to figure out before I even go into a chapter which characters should be the primary point of views. Um, Trying to keep that limited to 3 or 4. I don't think you need to have 7 in one chapter. Having 3 or 4 gives you a pretty good mix, and I don't think it confuses the reader as long as it's done tastefully. I feel like chapter 11, you know, was pretty well done, considering we stuck to the POV of the twins, even though we had and we did have the other characters there, um, but it pretty much stuck to the twins. Um, And moving forward, looking at doing it that way. If we've got the twins in a scene, we'll definitely be switching between the 2 twins. And then if we have anybody else, but again, trying to limit that to 4, I think at max. But we'll see. But I'd like to read some other stuff beyond the Dragonlance trilogy. I haven't read the Icewind Dale stuff in a it's probably been 20 years since I've read the Icewind Dale stuff. The Dark Elf trilogy, all those. I mean, it's good stuff. I know Himbar, aka Liam's Lyceum, loves the Forgotten Realms stuff. So I may ping him and say, hey man, if you're watching this, you could drop a comment down below. But if I don't hear from you, then I'll ping you. and just say, hey man, what's probably in your opinion the best of the Forgotten Realms Salvatore series to get into right now to get that point of view since they're fresh on his mind because he reads those a lot. Anyway, what am I watching right now? I'm working my way through the most recent season of Cobra Kai. Really good. I still haven't watched, despite having lots of time on my hands when I was sick of it, I didn't watch the second half of the Masters of the Universe show or the second half of the Arcane show, both of which I love the first seasons of, or the first halves of. So I gotta watch those, but I am watching Cobra Kai right now, getting caught up on that. Also, the most recent season of Ozark is out, so I've got to get caught up on that. So that's going to be February, as I'm going to be trying to get wrapped up on all of that um, before the move. And then we get into the move. So, yeah, I need more coffee. I'm waiting on the kettle right now. Do, 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 do. What else can we talk about? We've avoided stuff we've already kind of covered, the tabletop stuff. Point and click game, we set a rough deadline for the end of the year for that. Might happen before then. It just depends on my brother's schedules, but it's moving ahead nicely. He's basically wrapped up, I think, in the next week or two. He's going to be completely wrapped up with all of the world building for Marin's Rest, which means the next part, I should say, is going into the scenes and so basically, if you remember in the demo, we have that first scene. Well, I think, I can't remember. I'd have to look at the map off the top of my head. There's 10 or 12 scenes in that town, and we have the first one in the demo. So now what we're doing is we're going through and going scene to scene to scene to scene to scene, and mapping out NPCs. And in each scene, there are a certain amount of interactable objects, some of which are for quests, some of which are for Easter eggs. So we have to go into each scene and we make a list and we say these are the items that need to be in there for quests, and these are all the items that need to have descriptions, whether it's for Easter eggs or otherwise. How many NPCs are in that scene? Once we know that, Joey can then go and start adding all of the objects and placeholder characters for the NPCs. Now, obviously, I have to write all the descriptions for everything, so scene by scene by scene. Um, in a grand scope of things, it doesn't take that long to write everything out for the description texts and the Easter eggs in a first draft format. Obviously, we go back and we make multiple drafts because there's grammar errors, spelling mistakes. I do make mistakes. It happens sometimes. And sometimes just between the copy and pasting, something doesn't get transferred over. And so we have to make adjustments later on. So all that stuff happens. So getting him a rough draft of descriptions for all those scenes. Then he goes and starts putting all those ins. And then while he's doing that, while he's putting in the items and the descriptions of those items and the placeholder NPCs, I then go back and start working on the dialogue for those NPCs. Some of which is filler dialogue, some of which is Easter egg dialogue, and then some of that is quest dialogue. So we are looking like over the next probably 3 months is about what it'll take, depending on everything else. Once he gets into the warmer weather, um, there's more stuff that has to be done with the ranch and stuff. But we'll approach that as I've always done, which is we take it one step at a time. But that's what I'm looking at for the next step is in February I'm going to start writing description texts, and then probably March is when I get into doing the dialogue and narrative for all the quests and everything else. So over the next 3 months, you could say maybe looking at March, April, May. It would be ideal about the time that we're having the about the time we're getting all the tabletop stuff, all those books published out the door. We would get into the second phase and be completed with that second phase and have that ready for testing. And then we have it might not even take 2 months. It might only take about a month to the forest zones because there's only like, I think, 4 or 5 outdoor zones that players can explore, and then we're to the island. And the island will take another chunk of time because that's interior. There's a couple of exterior scenes, and then there's the dungeon inside, and then that's it. So we're looking, in a perfect world, we'd like to think about 9 months is what we need to wrap that up. And so that's kind of what we shot for. Is we've got three chunks, three quarters basically. February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, something like that. But we said Q4 of 2022. So end of the year is when we're hoping to have the point and click game out, which is great because then we're going to wrap that up. We're going to be moving on to the next thing, which we're already looking at that right now. So it'll be fun to get that done. Having the tabletop books out the door, we're also going to be transitioning over. We're going to be wrapping up the Lost Mine of Phandelver stream in March ahead of our move, and then we're going to be transitioning to Sunday nights are going to be DM tips and tricks. The same crew is going to be there. This is the exciting thing, which none of you we haven't talked about this, and we may talk about on the show tonight. Well, I'm recording this on Sunday, so tonight is our next session of D&D. One of the things we're going to be doing in between. So here's what's happening. The crew that we have, we're sticking together, which is great. So we're finishing up Lost Mine of Phandelver, and then in May or June, once the tabletop books come out, we're going to be starting to stream the Weave and Void campaign, which is going to be completely different. It's not going to be based on D&D. It's our homebrew stuff. But in between that, we're going to be keeping these Sunday night sessions going. Obviously, I might miss a few depending on internet and moving and things. But the crew is going to continue to band together to do those, and it's going to be based on uh, D&D tips and tricks. It's going to be tabletop tips and tricks as well as Fantasy Grounds tips and tricks. And just getting together and talking about favorite moments from season one, what we did during the Lost Mine of Phandelver, things we learned, things we'd like to do differently, things that we learned about Fantasy Grounds. So we're going to keep doing Sunday night streams with some sort of a tabletop vibe to it, to keep the audience entertained, and then we'll be transitioning over into the next stuff. So you want to stay tuned for all that. So if you haven't already done so, this is the perfect opportunity to say make sure you're subscribed and following over on the Twitch channel for the Weave in the Void, twitch.tv/Weave and Void. What else is up? That's all the Weave and Void stuff. Um, gaming. We could talk gaming. So if you've been watching the streams, Chris started streaming with me beginning of December. So she's a couple months in now. Obviously, we had some downtime because being sick in January, but for the most part, we've been streaming 3 days a week. We did a little bit of EverQuest 2, got her up to like level 30, and then that was around the same time that people started wanting to look at what we were doing next beyond EverQuest 2, which ended up being Lord of the Rings Online, which is great because my brother and I love Lord of the Rings Online. We're always happy to come back to this game. We typically play that game together every year for the winter season. This year we switched it up and did Star Wars: The Old Republic. We're continuing to do Star Wars: The Old Republic on Wednesday nights with a couple of his friends. And but in the meantime, our gaming community is making the transition over to Lord of the Rings Online. And this Thursday, February 10th at 8 p.m. Central, in our Discord server and at the Kin Hall in the Shire, we're having our first official guild meeting on the Laurelin server. And I will do a video this week about the guild in Lotro. But if you want to come join that, we are on the Laurelin server. You can join it free to play. We have a max level kinship there, and we're going to be starting adventures in Lord of the Rings Online in this February. And playing that for the foreseeable future, that's going to be the next 3-4 months minimum, maybe 6 months. It's very casual, relaxed. We're not doing any raiding this time around like we tried to do with EQ2. We're just going to be doing role play and fun. And Chris is streaming with me often here on my YouTube channel, which I'm sure you've noticed, which has been a lot of fun. That's the kettle. Did you get that? Did you get that, Chris? Do you have the kettle? Okay, thank you. I didn't hear it. So thankfully she heard it. So I'm going to have coffee here in a minute. By the time I wrap up this episode, I'll be getting some coffee. Excuse me. I still have a residual cough. It's no fun. We'll see how long that takes to get over. But anyway, I've covered gaming community. I've covered Weave and Void news. We've talked some shows. We've talked reading, which is, I need to do more of this year. I was going to work on trying to finish up that sci-fi novel, but I ended up putting that on the back burner. The reason for that being, I'm having a lot of fun doing miniature painting. So I was like, you know what? That's fine. I'll just get all this done because we have a lot of miniatures to try to get painted this year. And then just when we decided we were going to be moving in March, it was like, you know what? Now is not a good time for me to be trying to do the rest of that because I've got enough things on my plate right now. So perhaps after we move, I might do that. But in the meantime, I'm having a lot of fun with miniature painting. So hopefully you're tuning in for those. I'm streaming those on Twitch, on the Weave and Void Twitch channel on Tuesdays. Mondays I was streaming the Incarnate sessions, but I wrapped up all the maps that we need for the module. So I don't need to do any more streams on Monday. So I don't know if I'm gonna pick something else up and do it on Monday. We'll see. But all that stuff is moving forward. It's hard to believe we've been here in the city for 4 years. February will be 4 years. So on February 15th, actually. So here in about another week ish. Next Tuesday, we will have been here for 4 years in Mexico City. And we're leaving the following month. So, having been here in the city for 4 years, it's been nice, but I'm not gonna lie. The last, like, just during the pandemic, it's been boring to be here because you can't go anywhere. You can't, I mean, you can, but there's risks, and obviously, even as protected as we were, we took it pretty seriously. I have said we got a little lazy towards the end of last year in terms of going out on the streets and not necessarily always having our masks on and stuff. But we're pretty sure we got sick at the market, at the supermarket, um, because it's impossible at this point. It is impossible to avoid getting COVID. It's impossible. But because every country around the world is still struggling to come to grips with this and learn how to live with it, you're still dealing with lockdowns and restrictions and all these different things. And it has just made living in the city not fun because you can't go anywhere, you can't do anything, everything's shut down. You don't want to go anywhere because the risks of getting sick. And this is not. I'm not being political here. I am double vaccinated. So is Chris. I still got sick, and vaccinations do not keep you from getting sick. If you don't know anything about vaccines, I don't want to argue with you. I grew up on a ranch. You vaccine cows, you vaccine sheep, you vaccine horses, not to keep them from getting sick, but to hopefully help them avoid it if they can, but definitely to avoid dying from it or from having serious complications if they do get sick. And I will say that even being double vaccinated, that was the sickest I have ever been in my life in January. 4 days of 103 fever, um, borderline like if it gets another half a degree, I'm going to worse. I'm going to the hospital and just not being able to breathe and horrible chest cough. It was bad. But being here in the city, it's just you're in a concrete jungle, and I love the amenities and I love having everything at my disposal. Uber Eats, and I'm 45 minutes from an international airport, and everything's convenient. There's Here's the thing: it used to be cool because out my front door there's 150 restaurants, right, within 15 minutes walking distance. None of which I want to go to right now because of COVID, and because of all the restrictions and the chances of getting sick, and all the parks are museums. You don't want to go to those places, and they're all closed down, and all this other stuff. And it's like it was cool to be here, and yeah, you get good internet and everything else. But at the same time, when you can't go anywhere, and you can't do anything, and it's like you're stuck, and all you see is buildings all around you. That's not necessarily the best thing for a creative mind. It's not. It's not necessarily the best place to be for a creative headspace. And so moving out to the countryside, you do sacrifice some amenities, but it'll be nice to have a change. And also, I'm just kind of looking at it going, it'll be nice to have greenery around. The only downside is I do not miss mosquitoes, and mosquitoes are quite. It's like if I go to Missouri, there's ticks and chiggers. If you grew up in Missouri or anywhere in that Midwest part, Missouri, Oklahoma, Kansas, Arkansas, you have chiggers, which are not a thing in a lot of other states. Chiggers are the worst little bastards ever, and it's only when it's hot out. And they are unavoidable. Like you cannot avoid them if you're going to go out in any sort of summertime activity that relates to the outdoors, even just going out in your yard, even if you keep the grass cut short, if you live in the countryside and not in a subdivision, you're going to be dealing with chiggers. Then anytime you go out into the woods or go for a nature walk or a hike or picking blackberries or whatever the case may be, you're going to run into getting ticks. So if you live up there, you get ticks and chiggers, and if you live in the tropics, you've got Mosquitoes more than other things. Not looking forward to mosquitoes, but they are somewhat avoidable as long as you keep your house battened down. But I am looking forward to um, greenery, green space, and not necessarily always staring at concrete jungle. But it's crazy to think that we've been here 4 years. The time flew by. Seems like we just moved here yesterday to work on Saga Leucemia stuff full time, and then here we are 4 years later. So we got here at the beginning of 18. So yeah, um, or whenever it was, I forget now. But yeah, 4 years, and we're on our way to the next adventure. We were in Cancun for I think 8 years, and then been here for four, which means I've been in Mexico now for 12 years. Going on, yeah, I'll be completing my 12th year at the end of in September of 2022. I'll have been here full time for, well, not full time, I go up, but we haven't been up to the States for 2 years now because of the pandemic stuff. But having this be my home for 10 years, and of course I have permanent residency down here. Um, yeah, that's crazy to think about. Time flies. I'm getting older. I turned 42 in January. Um, During the sickness. I literally got sick, and then it was my birthday, and I was like, no, this is the worst time to be sick, but it happened. Um, but still, I turned 42, which is hard to believe. I definitely have less hair than I've had before. You can't see it, but I'm getting, thin and back in the back. When I cut my hair off a couple years ago, it wasn't a bad time to do it. I'd had long hair my whole life. It's just that time. And of course, I transitioned from there to here. This might come off, by the way, once we move, because it's chilly here. Like it's a year-round 72, 75 degrees, and then like I'm in a sweater. You'll notice I'm often in a sweater. It'll only get warm in like the March, April, sort of March, April, May months. It'll get warm enough for me to be in shorts and a t-shirt here, and I'll often have a fan going. I never need air conditioner in Mexico City because we're in the mountains. But where we're transitioning to, it's hot. Chris was just out there in October and it was 90, 95 degrees. So it's definitely it's warm year round. I think the average is like 85 to 90, so it's constantly up there. So I'll be back to using air conditioning a lot like we did in Cancun. So I don't know if I'm going to be keeping this. It'll depend after we get moved and everything else if I want to keep the beard. But I told Chris it's like I'm liking the idea of just letting it go into terminal um, growth length to see how far it's gonna grow. And then if I decided to do it again when I'm like 60, I can, and I can know that I can grow it for like 3 years, and that'll be it. Um, I'm a year and a half in now, right? I cut it. I started growing it in September of 2021, so I'm like a year and a half in. So I mean, it's not. A lot of people are like, "Oh, you have a great beard." It's like it's not that great. It doesn't grow that great on the sides and stuff. It just sometimes when it's brushed out, it looks okay. This is the post-snap beard, which doesn't look that great. But I've noticed sitting here, like it's actually long enough now that unless I scooch back or sit up, even if I sit up, like you can't. It's gotten long enough now that it goes below the camera. We'll see. I don't know. Anything else I can ramble about? We're 30 minutes in. I kind of feel like that's a good length for a Monday Musings episode. Um, Barring any sicknesses or further distractions, we should be good to continue our weekly episodes. Um, Having done one in January and then getting sick, and then I was sick for 2 weeks, and then the third week I was just like, you know what, I'm still not feeling that great. Did some other stuff instead, and now I'm back. So hopefully you enjoy. All the new people, thanks. Welcome aboard. You probably might not know what's going on here since this is the first time I've done this in a few weeks, but these are normal. If you go back to 2021, I did one every week, and we're getting back in every week. Also, stay tuned with shorts. Watch the shorts because I will be doing shorts while we're moving and everything else. So even if I don't do full episodes because of internet, I will still be doing shorts just on the mobile. Um, and stuff as we're transitioning. So stay tuned for all that stuff. But that's March. In the meantime, stay tuned. Chris and I are continuing to stream Lord of the Rings Online in the mornings. We've got the guild transitioning on Thursday night. Um, I've got more videos coming out for game stuff. I've got a video coming out soon on A Bard's Tale 4, which I'm loving. Got some more EverQuest 1 and EverQuest 2 videos coming out. Definitely going to have more Lord of the Rings Online videos coming out, not just Lord of the Rings Online streams. Um, I can't remember what else I've got on the docket. I'm trying to do more of those MMORPG analysis videos. Some of those get a lots of traffic and some don't. It's hit and miss, but I'm liking those because it's kind of a continuation of the Mondays and MMORPG show. But it's just me now instead of having co-hosts, and I get to talk about lots of different things. And of course, I'm still a part of the Looking for More show on Simmerg's Twitch channel every Thursday at 5 p.m. Central, and I'm there until they decide they don't want me anymore. So far so good, and we're having a lot of fun. Those guys are a lot of fun to hang out with, and we're having a lot of fun with D&D on Sunday nights. So make sure you tune into that and everything else. Thanks, everybody. Stay tuned for next time. And if by some chance you stumbled here and haven't already subscribed, check the playlists out. And if you think you want to come along for the ride, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get updates for future content. Join our Discord, links are below. And if you want to support what we're doing with The Weave in the Void, you can go over to our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/wandering hermits. You can pick up a subscription for as little as $3 a month. Lots of different tiers, lots of different perks. If you want to pre-order the tabletop books, which are coming out in May and June, it's at the $15 a month tier. And if you want to pre-order the point and click adventure game, that's the $25 tier. So hopefully we'll see you either here or there or in Discord. Until next time.